Hello Star Citizens, Buzzkiller here, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'll be going over my recommended dual Virpil Constellation Delta bindings for Alpha 3.8. Alpha 3.8 went live on the 21st of December, and with it came new ship functions and their associated binding options. It also came with a ton of new bugs when it comes to mapping, importing, and exporting bindings. Honestly, this has been one of the most difficult patches to work with since I started doing these videos, which is why it took me so long to get this video out. But I think I've finally settled on a set of bindings that will work for most people. So, without further ado, let's get started by going over the new functions for Alpha 3.8. The first new function is the updated Look Ahead mode. The new Look Ahead mode makes your flight experience more immersive by making your character's head move around realistically based on your flight inputs and external factors such as G-forces and horizon orientation on planets. It also allows people without head tracking to better keep track of where their ship is going and where the ship is. The experience can be fine-tuned and customized via a set of toggles and sliders in the options menu. The new mode also came with two new functions you can map to your joystick. The first is Enable/Disable Look Ahead, which allows you to toggle the mode on and off. The second is Look at Target, which is a toggle function that does just what its name implies. In order to use Look at Target, you must have an enemy targeted and be facing in their general direction before pressing the button. Your camera then locks onto them until they fly out of your head's range of motion, target lock is lost, or you press the button again. The third new binding is a long-awaited Deselect Target function. Obviously, this clears your selected target, which is extremely useful, not only when using the new Look at Target function, but also for getting rid of that pesky ESP auto steer when you don't need or want it interfering with your intended flight path. One such example is when flying towards a station to land. If you have a ship targeted in front of you, ESP will try to pull you off course and towards that target, which can be extremely annoying. So now you can simply hit this new button and not have to worry about it. Now, let's look at the changes to my recommended dual Virpil Constellation Delta bindings for Alpha 3.8. First of all, you may have noticed I've changed the modifier from left alt to right control. This is due to a new bug in 3.8 that seems to be confusing legacy alt and left alt on some keyboards. The new modifier should work for everyone, but if you're still having problems, let me know and I'll try to work with you. A happy side effect of this change is that it will reduce the chance of someone accidentally closing the game when cycling their camera view with F4 while holding the modifier button. Another change in Joy to Key is I increased the sensitivity of the mouse scroll wheel function on the right joystick. This is to improve in-game performance. Due to these changes, if you've been using my bindings for a while, you'll need to update your Joy to Key profile to the latest version found in my Dropbox, link in the description of this video. Also, make sure you're using the latest version of Joy to Key, which is currently version 6.3. And now for the button bindings. On the left stick, I removed target hailing to make room for VoIP proximity chat, as this can be useful when crewing a large ship and you only want to speak to the crew sitting near you. Hail target was moved to modified HAT-R center click on the right stick. Also on the left stick, I replaced head tracking hold with head tracking toggle on HAT-L left. This allows for better hands-free use of the function. I also moved recalibrate head tracking to modified HAT-L left. The acceleration limiter relative function was moved from modified analog stick L due to a new bug that prevents that function from working with a modifier. The function was moved to HAT-L1 up and down. This, of course, required me to add modifiers to the power tree adjustment functions that were already on that stick, as these are less critical functions. The speed limiter toggle function was moved from modified HAT-L2 center click to L2 down for easier access. The headlights function that was previously on this button was moved to R2 up on the right stick. On the right stick, I added the first new binding, Look at Target, to HAT-R left. On that same button, I also added the new toggle look ahead function with the modifier. This button was previously used to toggle mining mode, so that function was moved to modified hat R right. The G-force safety and ESP toggles are rarely used in the new flight model, so they were moved down to scroll wheel R center click. Decouple was moved up to take their place on hat R center click, as it is a much more important function. The new Deselect Target function was added to modified hat R1 down. This button was previously used for reset subtarget, but I found that this function could be combined on the same button as cycle subtarget, so it was moved to modified hat R1 up. To use this function, you hold the modifier button and tap up to cycle through the subtargets. You can then hold the up button to reset your target to the main hull. Next, I added the star map function to hat R2 right, as it can be really useful when navigating. To make room for this, I moved the Comlink app toggle and chat window toggle to hat R2 left and hat R2 left modified. Due to a new bug in 3.8, you can no longer add a double tap modifier to the eject function. So, in order to prevent accidental activation, I removed this function from the joystick altogether, along with self-destruct. This allowed me to move headlights to hat R2 up and exit seat to hat R2 down. I added a modifier to the exit seat function to help prevent accidental activation. Finally, I've made a few changes to the open and closed door functions. I found that these functions can be quite useful, especially when piloting a troop transport in order to quickly signal to your crew that it's time to disembark. So I've moved open all doors to hat R down for easier access. Close all doors is still set to hat R up. To make room for open all doors, I moved the lock all doors function to modified hat R up. Unlock all doors is of course still bound to the modified hat R down. And that's about it for the binding changes, but before we close the video, I want to go over some of the known issues and workarounds in Alpha 3.8. When it comes to importing my bindings, there are a few issues that have been popping up lately. First is that previous bindings will sometimes interfere with the new bindings. In order to get around this issue, make sure to use the Clear All Bindings function in Star Citizen. You only need to clear the joysticks, not the keyboard, not the mouse. Another possible fix is to delete your user folder before importing my bindings. This will give you a clean slate to start with. The second common bug is the tendency for some functions and buttons to not bind properly. The most common functions are pitch, roll, and yaw. To fix this, you'll have to go into the bindings menu and add these functions manually. Simply hit Escape, Options, Key Bindings, Advanced, and scroll over to Joystick HOTAS. From here, click on Flight Movement to reveal pitch, roll, and yaw. Click on each function and move the joystick axis you want it bound to. I personally recommend X, Y, and Z to be bound to yaw, pitch, and roll respectively. This improves joystick weapon aiming and accuracy in Star Citizen. However, some may prefer roll to be on X and yaw on Z, as this is how flight sims are typically set up. I'll leave it up to you to decide which is best for you. A third issue people have been reporting is that after importing my bindings, their F interaction button and enter open chat function stop working on the keyboard. This can be fixed by resetting your keyboard and mouse back to their default after importing my joystick bindings. Now this will unfortunately break certain camera functions. This can be fixed by manually changing your advanced camera mode button back to right control. Another bug I found is with the power increase and decrease functions. These functions currently do not work when bound to the joystick or the keyboard. However, these are useful functions, so I left them bound in hopes CIG will eventually fix the issue. The workaround is to make your changing using the power MFD as required. This function can be useful for lowering your EM and IR signatures, as well as reducing heat during quantum travel. Finally, there is an issue where the speed limiter function is inverted on the left thumbstick. Unfortunately, there are no simple fixes or workarounds for this issue, as CIG has not added an invert toggle for this function. And that about wraps up this update. I hope you found it useful. If so, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for future content. Maintaining these bindings requires a lot of time and effort on my part, and even though I don't monetize this channel in any way, having subscribers and regular feedback motivates me to keep making these videos. All the usual bindings and configuration files can be found in my Dropbox by following the link in the description below. Until next time, this has been Buzzkiller, and I'll see you in the verse.